After 2 years of a long and bloody war, a fragile peace appears within reach in Gaza this morning. There have been emotional reunions on both sides of the border, all against the backdrop of world leaders signing a peace plan in neighbouring Egypt. The remaining living hostages taken in the October 7 attacks have now been handed over to Israel, along with the bodies of some of those killed. In exchange, scores of Palestinian prisoners and detainees have been released from Israeli jails.
The US President Donald Trump has told more than 20 world leaders meeting in Sharm El-Sheikh that the war in Gaza is now over and that the rebuilding must begin. We're going to speak to our correspondent in Tel Aviv in just a moment, but first we want to show you some of the emotional scenes coming out of the Middle East as those reunions took place overnight. And that was some of those reunions that have been taking place in the Middle East. Let's head now to our Middle East correspondent, Matthew Doran, who is in Tel Aviv for us this morning. Matt, welcome back. We've been monitoring some live pictures out of Israel as we've gone to air this morning. What's the latest on the release of the bodies of the dead Israeli hostages?
James, good morning. We are seeing reports that the 4 bodies which have just been brought out of Gaza have now arrived at the National Forensic Centre here in Tel Aviv, the National Morgue, and they will be examined and identified there. It's only 4 bodies which have been retrieved today, handed over by Hamas out of the 28 dead hostages which are still in the Strip. It is a very different set of circumstances to those 20 living hostages who were freed earlier today, and the situation is, with those 4 bodies being returned, Israel is already accusing Hamas of reneging on this ceasefire and hostage exchange deal, saying that it should have been releasing all of those bodies. Hamas had, though, warned that it would be difficult to find some of those remains after 2 years of intense bombardment in Gaza. So it has taken a little bit of the gloss off of what has otherwise been a pretty joyous day here in Israel, with the final living hostages returning to the country after more than 730 days in captivity. There were scenes right across the country, but primarily in Hostage Square, thousands and thousands of people gathering to mark this event, to watch live broadcasts of the proceedings, and to really come together as a community after 2 very long years of war. This is a crowd which does have an appreciation for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, even if there is a priority being put on the fate of those hostages as opposed to the Palestinian population there. We spoke to some of those in the crowd about how they were feeling on the day.
We came here with our 2 children to give them some hope.
Very happy. We're so happy that the hostage come today. We waited this 2 years, and for us it's big event.
We came out of the streets is because we as a nation, as a people, came out week after week and said that we want our hostages home, we want this war to end.
Well, this all coincided with the visit by the US President Donald Trump to Israel. A very, very quick, fleeting trip for the US President, but something of a victory lap, considering that many people in this region, not only in Israel, but in the Arab world as well, are saying that this ceasefire and hostage deal is a result of his hard work as opposed to that of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Certainly in Hostage Square, there are not that many fans of the Israeli Prime Minister, accusing him of scuttling previous deals deals and delaying signing any agreement for his own political purposes there. Despite that, the US president was keen to heap some praise on Benjamin Netanyahu during his speech to the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. He said that in particular it was appropriate for Benjamin Netanyahu to agree to this deal right now.
The timing of this is brilliant, and I said, Bibi, you're going to be remembered for this far more than if you kept this thing going, kill. It would be it would not be the same. And I just want to congratulate you for having the courage to say, that's it, we've won.
That is, of course, the US President Donald Trump speaking there. And Matt, the release of almost 2,000 Palestinians has also been taking place over the past few hours. How have they been welcomed home?
Well, James, there have been more than 1,700 or around 1,700 Palestinians who've been arrested and detained during the course of this war, bussed back into Gaza. They have been welcomed quite warmly there. These are people including women and children, many of whom have never faced any charges while they've been languishing in Israeli detention. This is an ongoing feature or characteristic of how Israel deals with perceived threats, and something which has been roundly criticised by humanitarian organisations and more broadly members of the international community. In addition to that, 250 Palestinians who were serving life sentences have been released from jail, some of them convicted of very serious offences indeed. Not all of them have been released back into the community in the West Bank or East Jerusalem. Some of them are effectively now in exile in Egypt. But those who were freed back into places such as Ramallah or East Jerusalem, the scenes that they were greeted with were far different to those in Hostage Square for those Israeli hostages. The Israeli authorities had insisted that any celebrations or congregations not only be muted but not actually exist at all, and there were instances of tear gas and rubber bullets being used to disperse some of those crowds near the Offa prison in Ramallah. So it is a very different set of circumstances to what's been happening with the Israeli hostages, and is another example of just how fragile any sort of peace in this region is.